Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa Gomez, and I will be presenting Hurricane Katrina. The time was 2005. There have been many concerns over the levees that surrounded the area of New Orleans, Louisiana, since many residents are living above sea level or overall just living near water. The Army Corps engineers would build levees and seawalls to prevent heavy floods. These were successful structures, but over time they need to be updated. So the Corps decided to go to the US Congress and request 22.5 million, but they were only given 5.5 million to work with, and this would bring deadly consequences. August 23rd, 2005, there was a tropical depression. This would be named Tropical Depression 12 and eventually becoming Katrina. Hurricane Katrina became the 11th tropical storm of the 2005 season and went over the Bahamas as Category 1 hurricane, and it invaded Florida, then soon the Gulf of Mexico. And during this move, it went from a Category 3 to a Category 5. And this storm became one of the most powerful Atlantic storms on record. And Katrina would get shifted in the other direction, going toward Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. New Orleans then Mayor Ray Nagin knew the possibility their neighborhood would get flooded since the levees and seawalls wouldn't hold it up. He would announce a mandatory evacuation the day before the storm hit. People had a choice of either going to higher level, sheltering in the Superdome, or just staying home. Before the day ended, almost 80% of the city's population had evacuated. Some 10,000 had sought shelter in the Superdome, while tens of thousands of others chose to wait out the storm at home. And on August 29th, the storm struck, and there was damage to the levees, seawalls, and the drainage canals. This would cause housing and other buildings to go underwater at an 80% rate. In Louisiana, the storm would go eventually to a Category 1 and it would end on August 31st, 2005. The federal government and their officials seemed to have no clue about what was happening in Louisiana. Katrina took out the poorest city and left them vulnerable. There are people missing and stranded, businesses and homes were wiped out, and food and water resources were shrinking. The weather daily reached up to 90 degrees, and the Super Bowl ran out of supplies. People would soon start to rob each other for survival. Overall, Hurricane Katrina would nearly kill 2,000 people and affect 90,000 square miles of the United States. And the overall cost for the city would be 160 billion. The Coast Guard rescued about 34,000 people. Eventually, the military and the National Guard came to the city providing food and water. More people were evacuated to safer areas, and dozens of countries contributed to cleanup and rebuilding of New Orleans. The U.S. Army Corps would also pump the remaining flood waters out of the city in October. Congress would send out reforms to have better preparedness for such disasters. The Army Corps of Engineers built a 14 billion network of levees and flood walls around New Orleans. They fixed such flaws in their structures. With these updates and improvements, the city should not face another disaster like this again. And I remember I went to Louisiana, New Orleans not too long ago in April, and I went to the memorial for Katrina. I remember seeing that there was like a black granite wall with like sections of like names, but there's also sections where it was just blank. And that was supposed to represent people who were never identified, which I found like extremely like powerful. So that was the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening and have a good rest of your week.